fellow commissioners. And then, first of all, we'll be doing the Board of Canvassers result certification, and then we'll follow at the beginning of our regular meeting of the Board of Elections.
So I'm Douglas Kellner.
Evelyn Aquila.
And Gregory Peterson.
We'll go around.
Bob Brem.
Liz Hogan.
Bill McCann.
Joe Burns.
Anna Savitzer.
Dave Loomis.
John Connolly.
John Conklin.
Paul Collins.
Kim Yeldon.
Todd Valentine.
Please.
Bob Warren.
Gio Castillo.
Josh Oppenheimer.
Joe Vandler.
Susan Cohen.
Oh, thank you.
John
Amy Allo.
Thank you all. First order of business, and our only order of business, certification of the election results for the November 6, 2012 general election.
Okay, so
It's probably easier if we gave you a report because of the nature of this year's certification, a little different. We have the presidential electors results that are definitive for all 29 electors. United States Senate for Kirsten Gillibrand, representative in Congress. Due to the time that's still taking to count the executive order affidavit ballots, we received partial certifications from every county board of elections, so we don't have complete information once you get below United States Senate. So it's probably easier for me to read the ones we are able to certify. In the 1st Congressional District, Tim Bishop. 17th Congressional District, Nita Lowy. 20th Congressional District, Paul Tonko. 21st, William Owens. 22nd, Richard Hanna. 23rd, Thomas Reed. 24th, Daniel Maifai. 25th, Louise Slaughter. 26th, Brian Higgins. And 27th, Chris Collins.
So what's going to happen for the districts that are in, the 2nd through 16th congressional districts?
When we receive the...
So are we not notifying the House of Representatives of the election of those 15 members?
We're able to notify the House of Representatives today with those that are done today. And I spoke with the clerks, the contact we have for the clerk of the House of Representatives office last week. We send the notification to the House in 2 ways. One, in a secure envelope that gets to a special spot they ask us to send it. They're sending us an additional envelope to go there. They understand the ones that we're able to do today will be certified today, and somewhere around the middle of next week, I wasn't sure the date you'd pick, that we would send them a supplemental for those additional offices. And likewise, the same thing will happen for State Senate and State Assembly, those which we're able to do today. And then we'll have to, when we finish those other districts, supplement with a further mailing to those individuals.
Bob, is the delay on the final information on these elected because of Sandy, or is that the main cause of this?
Yes.
Yes.
The large number of individuals that voted by executive order caused those counties, additional time and energy in order to verify those affidavits and to
I just thought that
process
should be
them.
made clear. That was all.
Yes. I don't know if you want me to read the districts for the state senate. There's a lot more of them.
Well, tell us the ones we're not certifying.
The ones you're not certifying, I'll read the district. The not certified 5th, 6th, 7th, basically all the 5th district all the way through the 38th, the 40th district, 41st district, 46th district. All the rest, there's some here certifying.
So why aren't we certifying for the last 3 districts? They weren't affected by Hurricane Sandy, right?
With the 46th is that Senate race that has the court order, correct, the one that is still pending.
And the
so
other
is the
2?
41st.
40,
40th and
41st,
are also covered by.
is covered by a court order. The 40th is still in areas that are partially within those areas that are not completed yet. And the numbers that, you know, we only had we had a partial certification from Westchester, so we're not able to say with clarity the winner there. The assembly, Lisa's list is easy to read.
Yeah.
We're unable to certify District 9, District 13 through 15, 16 through 20, 21 to 22, 23 through 60,
64, 65.
through 95. We're unable to do 103 to 106 because Dutchess County has not finished yet. And that's it. All the rest we're able to do. And Justice of the Supreme Court, we are unable to certify the first judicial district. There are 4 seats. We're unable to certify the second judicial district, 3 seats. In the 4th judicial district, because of the 46 Senate seat court case, the 4th position is, based on the certification we received, within 71 votes. But there are over 100 pieces of paper still tied up in the 46th district.
In court.
Court
Yes.
challenge, so it's unable to determine that 4th seat in the 4th judicial district. And then we're unable to do the 3 in the 9th judicial district, the 6th and the 10th judicial district, the 3 in the 11th judicial district, or the 2 in the 12th judicial district. All the rest we have a winner for.
Thank you.
Sounds like a lot when you say it that way.
It is a lot.
All right, so I move that we approve what we have.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Start signing.
I would ask everyone's patience. We have several pieces of paper that we have to sign here, so
Let's start different
Relax.
ones on different sides of the
You
room.
want to just work it around?
That's fine.
That microphone.
But we start you with this.
So you want me to stop?
We'll just welcome back to
Here's the paper.
that left, you're the left side.
All right, I'll just pick it out. I don't know what- Oh, the next page, you should have said turn that up. I'm the second signature, right? This pen, is it missing?
This side.
I say I'm getting, I can't find anything today. Yep. I don't like this pen.
That's when we have officially.
Maybe put something underneath it.
You know, it feels like, I can't explain it. You want it back, so you
Okay.
see the signature?
I don't want to read it.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that'll help.
Maybe.
Like the old street pen.
Yeah.
Bless you.
I don't know why you put this on parchment when we know we're gonna change it.
We always put one on part. That pile, it's only 2 signatures. No.
This isn't my best handwriting. More like a scribble.
They have more to sign, so
I'm just trying to move the papers.
there's only 2 that 2 inside.
So it requires 2 signatures.
The 2 you signed most of these.
It goes faster once you get past the first step.
Okay,
This one you need for that packet too, Pat.
so these are the presidential electors.
I just noticed my initials are in here, so I'm.
That's
Yeah,
that's
no.
gonna count right away.
Who? The who? I have no idea.
Is this okay right there on this line
This
here?
is the fun part.
Okay, I'm ready for the next pile. We're doing US Senate.
United States Senate.
Yeah, I don't want to sign all that stuff.
You only get the first one. We'll sign some of mine.
Yeah, I started on gate high, I don't think I'll turn on signs, so. Individual certificate.
Here you go, Greg, you can have those.
I see my name.
Yeah, so far.
He's gonna frame it to make it look nice.
It's screwed up that you have to wear contacts that result in you wearing reading glasses.
This is for Greg.
Well,
Next one
when I wear just
is
my glasses,
representative in Congress.
the fact that they're outside your eye gives enough distance so that I can see fairly close up. Plus, just to read, I just take the glasses off. I can't do that with contacts, so that's really the distinction. So, I mean, to hold something here and read it, it's difficult.
President.
Did I sign?
Okay, sorry.
I think it's annoying to have to keep it. Well, this is my first experience with having to put something on to be able to read.
Or there's nothing in there for you.
Glasses or anything. I can hold things close enough. I don't have any problem.
Yes, it's over that way.
Those 2 for that. This is Justice of the Supreme Court. You're done with this one.
I prefer bullion, so it's only original.
The banks are doing that now. When they sit there and sign a paper here, well, we
Yeah.
used to be the other way around. They want to make sure they know what the originals are. They copies of it, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to, this is important, because one of the original ones, separated into all the copies. That is all the same.
Just do this rules.
Greg, you can start working on this one.
Go that way?
I got it. Those 2 documents.
Okay. this isn't a penmanship contest, I hope.
I think it's worse
Not
with these
bad.
signatures.
Sister Elizabeth would be happy with that.
Sisters wouldn't like that. But when you're making 25, and I get the feeling he's in a hurry.
No, it starts to degrade.
Right. Jim needs to sign off.
I think it's, you know, it comes to me anyway.
You done, Bob?
This side of the table's done.
Am I done? I
You're
signed
done.
everything?
You
No,
signed everything so
knew
far
that
that I,
you and them were going and I wasn't.
All right.
Yeah.
we're gonna send these for proofing if we can send.
You can have the pen back for the
So I don't like
archives?
to spell it wrong.
You might need it for next week.
Yeah.
Times are tough.
It's a lousy pen. I feel like I'm writing on cotton. I
We'll
don't
get
like
you a
it.
better pen for next week.
Well, maybe it's just, maybe they're all gonna feel the same to me, who knows?
I don't like fine points.
Yeah, that's what it is, they're fine pointed.
But I felt like I was writing on cotton.
Well, going to the Staples when I was down in Long Island was on my agenda, but
Oh,
it still hasn't reopened in the neighborhood. I was in.
Staples? Oh. So many places, I just, they said this one on the news this night, the Columbus, place in Long Beach
I used
burnt
to- I
down
used
this
to go
morning.
by.
So this isn't real park.
A terrible thing, they had no light, they had no
That's what
power.
passes for parking these days.
Economy, torture.
I have nothing
This is green.
Oops, sorry. Slow molasses.
I'm used to signing all this.
That's a lot to sign.
At the First Presbyterian Church.
Is this the done file?
It is.
So when I have as many as you do.
Oh, Jerry,
I'm recognizing the signature myself.
I think Bob and Todd sneak in 2 extra copies of the Electors, that there are only 8 required by statute. Done
I don't
10.
know what he's doing all count.
Whatever Lisa gives us, we do. She keeps us straight.
But yeah, the paper flow with the certification of the electors is interesting.
It is.
Because the governor has to sign it, the Secretary of State has to sign it, and then you have to, some copies go to the National Archives, some go to the President of the Senate. One gets filed with the district court in Albany.
Forgot what I said, yeah.
Yeah, you forget.
Right.
Why would you wanna do away with all that? Bureaucrats like dream.
I don't think I signed that one.
I so far have everybody on everything
Okay.
that I'm looking.
Because it's now or never, Bob.
it's now or next week.
Give these to Lisa, and she's gonna check them all.
When you say, Robert, we will continue with that until you give us the okay.
We're done. Just left for you to
Okay.
sign yours. The end.
All right.
They don't.
Oh, good.
Just one. And I got a big stack, but I'll do that.
I want to thank everyone for their patience. That concludes the meeting of our Board of Canvassers. We will now commence the meeting of our Board of Commissioners. We have already had our introductions, so we will move to the minutes. Everyone has a copy of the minutes of the last meeting. Do I have a motion?
No, I don't need
The minutes of the
Meetings
last
be
meeting.
accepted.
Have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
it.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Minutes are approved. Unit updates, Executive Bob Brehm and Todd Valentine, please.
Well, we just went through what we did most since the last meeting, which was, pretty much conduct the election. Obviously, what happened between our last meeting and the election was Hurricane Sandy, which, for lack of a better phrase, kind of upset the apple cart. We spent a lot of time, our role, obviously we're not putting voting machines out in the spots, but is to coordinate and help the county boards in these instances with emergency management and to get them together with the resources that they need to conduct the election. That includes the power sources, tents for polling sites, getting emergency management people to get the power companies on the phone to see what the status was on a daily basis, and actually several times a day. So, the one resource that we have is our communication network was operating, so we could reach out to the county boards and get them on the phone on a series of updates so that they could talk directly with emergency management or wherever they needed to. Whether that be the FEMA people, our state emergency management, and as Commissioner Kellner had testified at the City Board of Elections, we pulled it together. The one, it's always going to be a series of lessons you learn, as we learned for the previous year, with the storm that hit more up north. It was on a much smaller scale, don't get me wrong, but the response is still the same. When you have the time, you have to analyze your situation to figure out, okay, it's not so much what do I need, it's like, what can I do without? So do I need a building? Not necessarily, if I can put a temporary structure up.
And I saw one of them in Coney Island.
How much power do I need? Can I run off a generator? What is the machine, the voting system capable of doing? It's really learning what can you do without, and then, okay, now let's help you get what you need to do the bare minimum. So, there'll be a review of lessons learned going forward to the next year. As we learned from the last storm, how to respond to that, how to respond quickly, and to the credit to all the counties that were impacted, and even those that were further away from the direct front of the storm, they did great jobs. I'm not going to say that it was all pretty. A lot of people were devastated. Not just the voters, but even the employees of the boards of elections. It was very difficult for them in certain circumstances, because they live in these areas, so they were without power, they were displaced. But they recognized, and that's the one thing we were trying to get across to us, both Bob and I, was that we're going to run the election. When we need to work together to figure out how to do that, and we did. And was it perfect? No. And certainly, we've seen
It was
instances.
unbelievable, Todd. I saw Coney Island. I saw the Rockaways. I saw what you people did in those places. It was unbelievable. Maybe it wasn't perfect, but only God could have made it perfect. That was I saw things I never thought I would see before. I have a friend lost her house and both cars in the Rockaways, Bell Harbor. I saw places that I never thought was just gone. And yet, on election day, I went to many of those places and things were going good. And I give you congratulations for that. Not perfect, but good.
No, not perfect. And we had, as I said, we had a lot of help from the voting machine vendors themselves. Gave a lot of assistance. They recognized that, to try to get whatever assistance they could for the counties in terms of generators or other support help. They didn't run the election, of course, but that's what they came in to do. So, we're going to learn a lot of lessons from this. Every time you go through a disaster, unfortunately, we've been through too many of them. You learn, you try to build on that experience, and going forward, that's what we're going to do. Is it a lesson to look at statutory changes that give more flexibility, to having more pre-positioned temporary poll sites and a small number that can then be deployed on a smaller scale. We don't go a year by where a polling site doesn't have a problem. It's a big state, that's going to happen, but never on this magnitude. So, really, we're not going to congratulate ourselves because our job was to pull people together. The real congratulations goes out to the county boards,
Everybody, yes.
to the election inspectors that showed up, and certainly to the voters that persevered in what were difficult circumstances
They came in big
some
numbers.
areas. So, not to go on too long about this, but that, we're still seeing the impact of that today as we certify that the ripple effect of the storm onto the voters and the voting process itself is still continuing. I mean, we'll get it done. The winners will be certified, and we'll get there. But that's what has pretty much taken up all of our time since.
I think it's appropriate for us to take this opportunity, though, to thank the people who did the impossible. I'm sure there's some disappointments out there, but what was seemingly impossible was accomplished by some people who put in hundreds of hours of time and the sacrifice and the devotion as they did in their duty. And I know some of my fellow commissioners here personally have seen, I'm an upstater, so it didn't reach this area, but what we saw was on television. What you've seen is in real life, and you have some experiences, I'm sure, to tell that they're great congratulations to people, but also some great sympathy and empathy for people who what they've gone through and continue to go through. But yes, I think when times are tough, people rise and meet the occasion, and it's been done by state, federal, local officials, volunteer groups, and on and on. But I think we deserve to take a little bit of time of our meeting to give that recognition to those people. And,
Absolutely.
and I open the floor to my fellow commissioners if you'd like to comment on that while we're on it.
No, I agree.
Jim, half of the transportation in and out, I live in Brooklyn. We had power, but we couldn't use it because we had 3 feet of water in the basement of the building. And water and electricity, don't go together. They were afraid, should we put it on, that maybe it's a big brick building, maybe it would burn down. But I saw the water come all the way up practically to 5th Avenue in Bay Ridge, and then it went down. But everybody I knew, everybody at church, had a basement full of water. And they're thinking about that. They're not thinking about who's running for, Congress or president. They knew, but Congress, they were at that point where they said, don't even talk about the election. And I didn't even open my mouth, It was, they didn't even want to know about it, but they rose to the occasion. And another thing is, voting machines had to be moved all sorts of places. Half of the places you couldn't get in and out of any county because you had to go across a bridge or in a tunnel. The Brooklyn Battery Tunnel today has only 3 lanes, and that's the best it's been since Halloween. Only 3 lanes, and you know what that means in waiting? I had to get into downtown Manhattan last night, 45 minutes just to get through the tunnel on a Sunday night. That's not as bad as a Monday night. So people had gone through. When I went to the polls on Election Day, I was surprised at the smiles, the friendship, how nice people were all getting along. Those inspectors and those people opening those polls, what they had to do to get that poll open. I saw the one in Coney Island, green and white, like umbrellas they had there. So people, because they couldn't use the school had no power. So they were out in the lot somewhere with generators. And everybody on the lines, big long lines. They said, people come out to vote with all of this. Coney Island, the Coney Island Boardwalk, they'll have it up and running by the summer, I bet. But you couldn't believe that thing could ever be up again, ever. And the houses near Coney Island weren't too bad because they're mostly big brick buildings. I guess they were like us, they got the water in the basement. But when you go by the Rockaways, because I went out to the Rockaways to help out a friend who lost their house. And my daughter's girlfriend, they live in Bell Harbor, they lost their house and their 2 cars. They feel they're lucky they got away with their life. And I went to both places. And unless you can see all the pictures you want on television, you walk into somebody's house and they got 4 feet of sand. You can't even get the door open because the sand is in there. This is after a month of letting everything dry up. It is unbelievable, and people are magnificent. And I say the same to the people who work for us and the people who came out to vote. It took courage, it took guts, and it took caring, and they did it, and it's still not over by any means.
No, it's not.
Any means. Some of the trains are still not, they said the LIRR was running 100%, but on Sunday hours, the trains that they just put up today. So it's, people are still feeling the brunt of this, what do they call it, the storm of the century? And they came through it, and it means 33 people did die. I don't even know if that's the last number, but that's the last number I heard. And I know, like they say, well, Bay Ridge wasn't hurt. Yeah, everybody I know who's got a house in Bay Ridge has water in their basement. And you got to wait for the guys to come around and pump you out, because you got to get on the list. Because they can only do so many houses a day. That, my son said to me, Mom, come outside. You want to see something? I went out, you could just see the bay down there under the Verrazano Bridge, because I live on 86, rising up while we were standing there looking at it. It was like something you'd see in a horror movie. The water just came up and came all the way, didn't get to us. We're on 6th Avenue, which is like a hill. But up to 4th Avenue in Bay Ridge, that water came up there like it owned the place. Unbelievable. So it was some storm, yet those very same people were out on Election Day voting. God bless them, and I thank them all.
Well, thank you.
Those who worked at it, those who went out and voted.
Thank you. And I know Commissioner Peterson had, from Long Island, they were devastated in certain
Yeah.
areas.
The South Shore of Long Island
Yeah.
was devastated.
Yeah.
And some of your seashore communities took a tremendous hit.
Yeah.
Rearranging that for the Board of Elections, rearranging that, getting all the voting machines to the right places and get people out
Right.
was a job and a half. And yet typical of democracy, I tell you, our democracy, things it didn't go smoothly, but it went, and we had an election, and that's
Right.
what we're certifying today with our hearty congratulations to those who sacrificed so much to
How to
get this
move
done.
those machines across county lines was no joke, yeah.
Well, thank you, Commissioners. Bob Brown.
You know, it's hard to add much to that other than, you know, everybody
I'm
sharing
sorry, I
their.
didn't mean to take.
No, the collective message. You know, we worry in all of those to provide whatever support we can to the frontline people, but you know, the number of assessments of poll sites that didn't have power from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We were here around
Right.
the clock, well, not around the clock, but
6
all
days
weekend
to take
long
care of it,
to
yeah.
try and support the emergency calls that were coming in. But Saturday and Sunday still were a tremendous number that didn't have power. Still, that people were working to get logistics to by Tuesday morning. So it's a miracle that what was able to be accomplished, and certainly it was an impact on everybody, including the voters. But they did the best they could with the resources they had, and we pulled it
Manhattan,
off.
from the Battery to 34th Street was flooded. No power. When did the power go back on in Manhattan?
Saturday
Sun-
before the election or something.
Yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday.
Well, thank you. And I think, as was pointed out, everyone, also the congratulations went to the voters who really felt that no
Yes.
matter what, they were going to go out and vote, and they did. And that's a high compliment to them.
Long
And-
lines, when I went around, there were long lines everywhere, but not 45-minute lines maybe, and then towards the evening, which I quit, 45-minute lines, and I heard in the evening it could have been an hour and 15 minutes. And they waited.
I wanted to raise one issue with the executive report, is that we're waiting for comments on two pieces of proposed legislation. One is the review of the election night canvass procedures bill that had passed the Assembly but did not pass the Senate, and where I have raised this concern that the bill has separate procedures for New York City and New York, and I've asked the staff to look at that, and we still haven't gotten a report back on that yet. And I think that there's some urgency in getting that done this month. I mean, I'm disappointed. It's been almost 3 months since I asked that we do this, and it still hasn't come back. So, I mean, can we get this done by January?
I believe it's.
I mean, at least get comments on it, because I think that it's incumbent on us as the commissioners to make recommendations as to just what those procedures should be. And I think it's a very bad idea that there be separate procedures for New York City, that there should be uniform procedures, and if something is optional, then it should be optional for everybody. But there shouldn't be one mandatory procedure for the 57 boards and then another mandatory procedure for New York City.
No, I don't disagree with that.
But, you know, we really need to get this before the commissioners so that we can either present a unified view for the legislature, or if it can't be done, to say that there's a partisan disagreement that can't be resolved, which I'm not aware of, and I don't see any reason why there should be a partisan disagreement. So, can I get a commitment from you guys that we'll get a report on this for the January meeting?
I think we can, I understand your concern, and it's not that we were doing nothing else, but we have had a few conversations about it. Unfortunately, our time was pretty much in the emergency response direction, so we had hoped to have more by now.
All right, I
So
understand,
I
but this is a
believe
priority,
we should
and
be
the
able
clock
to
is ticking
at the next
away, because the legislature's going to be meeting in January, and we want to be clear about what our position is. And all right. The other piece of legislation does not have the same high priority, but it's still important, and it doesn't require a whole lot of work, I don't think, which is the electronic poll book authorization, which would simply be to provide the few words of the statute necessary so that county boards would have the options of using electronic poll books.
No.
Which I think are consistent with what I've heard, everybody
Yeah.
agreed. But again, we need to get the language done and
Mhm.
get this over to the legislature in January.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Legal, Kim Galvin, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. There's not much to add to the report. On a lighter note about Superstorm Sandy, she seems to have extended 2 of the cases that the Department of Justice was monitoring us on. I had thought that by the end of this year, we were going to come to an end with an 06 case and a 2010 case. With regard to the changes to the Nysboe system, while I think Dave can probably speak to the logistics of the actual computer software system changes, it appears that New York City did not get the training of their staff done. So that has been delayed till probably, the full use has been extended to probably the end of February. It appears that we recently sent a draft report to the Department of Justice explaining that the staff that needs to be trained is still in the process of researching the ballots and doing the certification for the numerous races that are still out. And we've spoken with New York City, and they assure us it is a priority for them moving forward. So we're all set to be compliant, and now we're not. And with regard to the monitoring of the military ballots, we have a report, Tom and I have a report due to the Department of Justice 14 days from the certification of the elections. And as you can see, there are many interim certifications or some not at all, so we don't really know what that's going to do to the time frame. But other than that, at the end of those processes, I'm hopeful that we'll be relieved of those continuing obligations on those 2 matters.
Thank you. Any questions? Election operations, Anna, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. We don't have much to add aside from our report. Obviously, everybody was busy. We did have, as we would normally have in a presidential election, a tremendous amount of phone calls. And we had a lot of help answering those calls from a lot of other people in the agency, so it's not just election operations, a citation of that, but it is the other units as well. So we wanted to thank everybody for chipping in, even with election day phone calls. There were, the phones just never stopped ringing. I'd like to add that I'm glad we have an op-scan system, because where we didn't have power, we didn't have a problem voting. If we had gone with DREs, we'd be telling a very different tale today. So it was kind of interesting over the last couple of weeks to hear from some commissioners who were big DRE fans to say that they too were glad that we had an optical scan system. We have certifications before you today, which means we'll be sharing those if you agree to certify those systems, sharing the procedures for doing those upgrades with the county boards and providing whatever technical support they need through Bob Warren and his team. We collected election results such as they were and prepared those documents for you. And we'll be continuing to do that until the whole certification is completed. I don't have anything else to add unless you have any questions. Joe, do you have anything?
Just to add regarding ballot design, we collected before the general election ballots from the counties and provided advice and suggestions on how to approve those where appropriate. And with regards to the legislative packet, if there are any ballot design issues that come up on that, we'll be working with the appropriate staff people here to get drafts together. That's it.
Further questions? Public Information Officer, John Conklin, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. We submitted a detailed written report. I don't really have much to add. I'm going to echo Anna's comments in that during the hurricane, I would say the Public Information Unit was nearly overwhelmed by the volume of calls from the public and the press. We were here over the weekend before the election day. Staff was here to help us. We had help from every single unit in the agency. So I would like to thank those other staffs for helping us. In particular, our own staff, Donna Malahy, helped, Mary Ellen Rita, Robbie Ann Gilbo, all did above and beyond the call to assist with the phones. Tom and I handled a lot of emails. We did a lot with the website in preparation for the storm, made a lot of adjustments and changes so people could get additional information. Dave will talk about this in his report, I'm sure. We expanded the bandwidth, and that was a tremendous help, I think, and I think we'll do that in the future as well. We had a lot of hits on the website. The 3 days leading up to the election, there was more than 800,000 hits on the website for that period of time. So I think we were able to get a lot of information out to the public where the local boards may not have been in a position to do that as well as we did. So I think we were able to be very helpful during that period of time. I don't really have much more to add than that, unless Tom has anything he wants to add.
No, I'm good.
If there's any questions.
The only thing I wanted to say, I mentioned nothing about Staten Island because I didn't get there. And I know that it was pretty tough in Staten Island, I believe. I just feel, don't want them to think we're neglecting Staten Island, but I just didn't get out there.
Thank you. Campaign Finance, Liz Hogan, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. In the interest of brevity, really, I have nothing significant to add to the written report, and so I think I'll just stand on what we submitted. Basically, it's a routine work and set forth in the report.
I noticed in the list of outstanding complaints that haven't been decided that there's still 2011 items open. And are there procedural issues that we can talk about without having to go into executive session on what we need to do to get these done? But, I want to reiterate that I think it's unacceptable to leave those hanging around for a long time unless there's a real issue. And that if you're not capable of getting the job done, then you have to bring them to the commissioners and we'll do your job for you. As I say, what's the story? Well, Bill, if you haven't gotten them done by the time of our next meeting, bring the files in here. and we'll do them ourselves. But it's not right. It's just not acceptable. And, you know, I keep raising this. And I see that, you know, most of these are assigned to you to do. And you just can't sit on them. You've got a job to do, and you've got to get it done.
Fair enough. Any other questions? Right to you, Dave Loomis, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't have anything to add to my written report. Kim and John touched on the other topics I wanted to. The only other thing I wanted to add was that in addition to the support that you've talked about so far for the election, we also got some support from various state agencies. Tax and Finance in particular helped us with hosting a 1-800 number from their call center so that we could answer phone calls on voters on how to find their polling places and questions about the elections. And I think that was, although we still got inundated, but they did handle thousands of calls for us, so that was a good, you know, an extra thing I'd just like to mention.
Absolutely.
I know we've had a lot of comments, and thank you to people. So if we're missing anyone, I think this is our opportunity. If someone thinks that, I know a lot of state agencies were involved in counties and cities and towns, but if something comes to your mind, just drop it out here. We can put it in the schedule. Don't worry about it. There's always time to thank people. Thank you, Dave. Old business? All right, time to vote on resolution to certify the upgrades to ES&S DS200 voting systems and AutoMark and Dominion Image Cast voting systems and ballot marking devices. Any comment before we do that, Ann or Joe?
No.
If not,
We have received extensive documentation, several hundred pages of documentation going through all the issues, and for my part, I've reviewed it, and I have no objections. I think that a complete and thorough set of testing was done that warrants certification.
Move for approval.
So I move for approval.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
Just for clarification, if I could add for those that are watching, that is the certification upgrade that does contain the new double vote and overvote screens for the court actions that we
Oh,
have.
yeah. Thank you. The next item for a vote is the vote on a resolution to certify Dominion Image Cast Central Count and ES&S DS850 Central Count optical scan voting systems. Do we have a motion?
I so move. Similarly, we've received complete reports. And then I assume that you will be posting on the website the information that the rules require be
Yes.
made public, right?
Right after the meeting.
All right, so I move the adoption of this, and after we
Second.
vote, I have one comment on this subject.
We have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, so on this subject, we've now certified central count optical scan voting systems that comply with the current regulations. We have optical scan, we have central system optical scans that were certified in the 1990s that I'd be very surprised whether they actually comply with the current regulations. And just ask Anna and Joe whether they have discussed at all what we're going to do about these old scanning systems.
Well, we are going to notify the vendor that the new system has been certified, and also find out from them in a formal way. We've had some informal conversations as to what their plans are for the Teamwork system, which was a Sequoia product, which is now governed by Dominion. So once we get something formal from Dominion as to whether or not they intend to submit that system for certification, we move forward with some sort of protocol allowing a transition period from the Sequoia system to the new system, and we bring that to the board. I expect we hear from Dominion before the next meeting, so we have an idea. The larger counties may need a little more time to transition. We haven't really talked about it, but that was our goal, to come up with a protocol to decertify the existing system and a period of time through which the counties would have to make the transition from their existing Sequoia system. All of the counties that do automated central count systems use that single system. So they'd all have to make that transition.
So I would ask at the next meeting that there be a more detailed plan laid out on how to do that. And it seems to me that there are really two options. One option is for Dominion to show that the old system meets the current regulations. Or alternatively, if Dominion's unwilling to do that, then New York City or some other county board that's using that system would have the option of doing that themselves. That New York City could ask to have that system certified, or could show that, because it's really decertification, because it's certified in the 1990s, but the issue is whether the system meets the current regulations. And so even if Dominion decides that they don't want to certify it, that they don't want to submit it for review, if New York City thinks that it does comply, then they should have the option, so they shouldn't be forced to buy new equipment if they think the old equipment meets the new regulations. But certainly this has been something they've been aware of for the last, I think it's about 5 years we've been talking about the eventual decertification of the old scanners. So it's time now to have a real plan on what's going to happen on this. And as I say, I don't think it's only the vendors calling the shots here. That if the county boards want to keep the old system,
Yes.
and the vendor isn't going to necessarily cooperate because the vendor has an interest in selling new equipment,
Yeah.
the county should still be allowed to go through that process itself to show that the machine
Oh, I
meets
hope
the
the city has
regulations.
the money, Doug.
Wouldn't we have some
But,
licensing issues then?
That's the issue for the city, the money. Will they get the
Well,
money?
let's
Let's figure out what. Right.
Yeah.
let's call up the machine people in the county boards that are using this to find out what they're planning to do and to have a little dialogue on what works here. But again, the idea is we have to move forward on it with a concrete plan soon.
I would handle it very carefully because there's so many people involved here. I wouldn't want the city board to think that we were trying to go behind their back. Number one. We're not, because we're on, everyone can see us. And number two, I think the biggest problem that they're going to get when we talk about buying new machines is money. The city is not going to come, the city right now is begging for money just to take care of what happened with the hurricane. So, but we must have machines that work properly and do the right thing. That's our obligation. And I support Doug in that very much. But I think we have to handle this very diplomatically and very carefully. That's the only thing I have to say about it.
Thank you. We just have an informational item on our agenda, engineering changes and orders for ES&S. Anna or Joe, have any comments on that?
No, those are minor changes to the system that they are submitted for testing, and the lab has described them as being de minimis, so they don't require any sort of an upgrade, and it doesn't require a board vote. It's
Right.
Informational to the commissioners when it's de minimis. And we'll be sharing that with the county boards as well
Thank you.
later.
Our next item on the agenda is a vote on a resolution authorizing the expenditure from state operations, the HAVA fund for the replacement of networking equipment. Dave Loomis.
I move the resolution.
Have a second?
Second.
Any comments or all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Setting up our next meeting date. I know we've actually zeroed in on it. I know we have other activities taking
February,
place.
around the first week of February.
Well, we have one before then,
We have to meet at that, yes, we have to meet
so we need a meeting
to sign the other
next week to approve the outstanding certification. And the city City Board of Elections provided Todd and I with a best estimate last week, where they called and said they had good news and bad news, and when they gave us the news, we weren't quite sure which one it was, so we asked. And the good news is that things were progressing and that they thought they'd made the deadline of working around the clock between now and, or long hours. They're working 12-hour shifts at the city, 7 days a week to complete this work, and that they feel that they are comfortable that it'll be done by the 18th. The bad news was they thought they might be able to get it done earlier, and they're not. They really don't think they're going to get it done earlier. So Westchester County's estimate is they'll be done midweek this week, and Nassau County's estimate is that they'll be done today. So that leaves the large entities that haven't been able to certify because they haven't completed their work. There still are 1 or 2 court cases that are outstanding. I don't know what will happen between now and then to estimate on those schedules, but certainly we couldn't do anything until the 19th at the earliest, and then it's whatever schedule works best for you, and then how do we best get the signatures collected is just
Is it permissible for us to hold until you have a date you can specifically do it, or do we have to name it right now?
No, you don't have to name it right now. We can wait.
You want to hold until you feel we're ready?
I think if we had
I
a
think we're gonna have to-
tentative,
yeah,
that way
tentative.
you
Yeah.
know,
I would think the afternoon on Wednesday,
Wednesday?
knowing that I'm not exactly sure when the city's going to give us what they're supposed to give us, and the other counties too, but
Well, I thought we're gonna be on the can, rather than come up here, right?
yeah, I don't think we'd come up here. I think this would be,
If I could go to Doug's office.
yeah, if that works out for you, a video meeting would be the most efficient as far as getting together, because the time involved to do the vote will be quick.
We did it in the morning the last time, I think around 11 o'clock. I'd like to beat the traffic, the traffic is unbelievable. It's Christmas in New York,
Yes, it is.
yeah. New York City.
Albany too is.
I know.
We're having it also.
But I'm worried about getting out of Brooklyn to go to Manhattan, which sometimes you feel you can't go.
Yep, no, we understand. But we can set a tentative date, and then, because I think at that point we should be ready on Wednesday.
You see, you're all the men, I'm the one
It's
who's
not
not
just
the
New York
traffic.
City.
Evelyn,
We
what
have a
works
lot
for
of work
you?
to do.
When do you want to
Yeah,
do
I
it?
know.
Well, in your office, I
No,
said,
but when?
The 19th, the 20th of both.
The 19th is Wednesday, the 20th is Thursday.
Either day. I
And
know,
what time do
Wednesday
you
I
want?
have my children because I teach CCD, but it's a party and the other 2 women will take
So,
over.
so what about 2 o'clock on Wednesday?
I'm thinking, isn't it better if we do it more in morning hours, 11 o'clock before
Is
the?
that what you want?
Well, I
You
think
may
it's
not be
before
ready
the
to say.
traffic
We may
gets
not be
too bad.
ready Wednesday morning. I mean, Thursday would be better. Thursday would be better than Wednesday, to be
Okay.
honest with you. Thursday morning.
Thursday earlier would be.
Yeah.
But after the 20th, I'm
11
sorry,
o'clock on
guys.
Thursday.
None of you have to shop, I do.
Oh, I have a son to pick up.
I have 10, between my grandchildren and my
What-
children.
That's why I got married. What day are we talking here?
Thursday the 20th at
Oh, the
11.
Well, I do it all, I gotta do it.
Thursday, the 20th at 11.
Video conference.
And that's tentatively Thursday, December 20th, 2012, at roughly 11 a.m. Correct?
Jim did it up here
I
the
don't know how
last
you wanna
time,
do the
right, Jim? You
signatures.
were up here.
Yeah, the signature issue.
Well, the signatures, I think because of the timing, we've used a couple of techniques before where we sent it to one and then it moved it around. But because of the delay in getting it done, I don't know that we want to spend the time for the overnight mail to catch all 4 of 11
If we
a.m.
could just have somebody deliver it.
Well, if you have somebody, say, meet me and Evelyn in my
Yeah, we can have a
office,
courier
and they
run
bring it
down.
out to Greg, and
Come to his
then
office
bring it
and
back to
then
Albany.
to
That's
Greg's
probably
office.
so. We just gotta find a volunteer.
And Jim is up here.
I'm sure we can
Unless
find
they get
somebody.
caught.
Jim is up here, right?
Yep.
And Greg's gonna do it from his office
Right.
and we'll do it.
Yep, we'll have
I'll
a
come in.
courier run down.
Yeah, and meet us at his office.
That would be the most efficient, because the two of you be
Okay.
together.
Yeah.
Okay, Thursday, the 20th, 11 a.m., unless we hear differently.
20th at what, 11 a.m.?
11 a.m., if that works for you.
And I need to get the address of your office again. I know it's at West Park Avenue.
Right, I'll give you a card again.
Is there any need to vote to go into executive
All
session?
yours.
No, I move that we adopt the preliminary determinations that are set forth on the agenda.
Second.
Did you have something?
Could I just clarify one thing, not
Oh,
related to this.
excuse me, can we vote on this now? or no?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I was
All
not
in
on
favor?
this.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Kim?
Just on the new business votes on the certification upgrades and the central command systems, those are 4 separate resolutions, so you took them in 2 votes, but just so that
Oh, right.
you meant to vote on
Yes.
4 separate,
Yeah.
for the clarity of the record.
Good point.
Okay.
I think we realize that.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Do we adjourn?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Carried. We are adjourned.
I was hoping to make a quick comment.
Well, we are adjourned, so you can do it off the record if you like.
Okay, I was hoping to get on the record, but thank you for